beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of WTF What's the Frequency, where we look at how life, the way we behave, the way we speak, can actually affect how we create our destiny or the experiences that seem to come at us constantly. I often talk to people about the tenfold rule. If you're nice, then niceness will come back to you tenfold. Equally, if you're speaking badly about yourself or about others, that energy will come back tenfold. So today I'm going to be having a fantastic conversation with Ebony Tutora. She's going to be joining us. Now, Ebony is a trauma specialist. She's a master meditation guru. She is the powerhouse behind the brand Queens Recognize Queens. And she's also an author and a public speaker. And it doesn't stop there. She's on a mission to uplift 1 million women and girls all around the world through making them just feel good about being themselves and teaching them to embrace what the universe has to offer all of us. So join me in welcoming Ebony Tutora for what I know is going to be an absolutely amazing conversation.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Ebony. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have this conversation today. And, you know, I need to tell everybody how early it is. Right? Ebony and I we're on totally different sides of the pond. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning where I am. And it's, what time is it where you are, Ebony?
5 a.m.
5 a.m. And she's still looking that fresh. I'm incredibly jealous. So let's jump right in, Ebony, because such an exciting conversation. So, first of all, we've got to talk about it because it's your journey to becoming a trauma specialist. And like me, I can't be an expert in anxiety and depression without having been anxious and depressed myself. So, without going into too much detail, can you just tell us how you got on this road to becoming a trauma specialist and meditation guru?
Oh my goodness. I'll start with the meditation because I think that was a part of my journey that I was, excuse me, that I was the most hesitant about. I grew up in a super chaotic home, and I always had this sense of I just remember even as a kid, I was always really just like really even keeled. Like amongst everyone else, I was always just right there. While everyone was like hitting the roof, here I was right there, right? So I've always noticed that's just been a part of my demeanor. It's just like a calmness and a knowing and just like, okay, like this is all crazy, but like it's okay. I started my career actually as a voiceover actress. That's how I got into the voicing of things.
You have got, let me tell you, you've got such a soothing voice. I could just listen to you all day. It's like a wave of calm coming over. I'm sure all the viewers are going to feel exactly the same. So no surprise there, Ebony.
Yes, even how that started. I was working for a radio station. This was before I had my own radio show and all these other things. And the guy comes to me and he goes, "We need you to record an ad." I go, okay. And it was for Christmas and it was like a naughty Santa thing. And they gave me the script and I read it and I look up and everybody's like, and that's how my career started, really, even in the voiceover business. And then over time, just practicing what I practice, that led to me leading meditations. As far as a trauma specialist, like I said, I grew up in a chaotic space and went through a lot of chaotic things. That really caused me to shift and change as a person, like life-altering events. And it led me down this road of self-healing. Psychology and talk therapy, I knew even at 19 was like not for me at all. I couldn't resonate with it.
Yeah, and I really want to pick up on that because I watched The Living Matrix recently, and I had Greg Becker on the show talking about vibration. And on his film, there were a number of people saying, talk therapy is great because you need to talk it out, but it doesn't actually solve the problem. And it didn't for me. And it's interesting to hear that it didn't for you. I mean, I had to go and look for other things that could actually help me heal. So sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to emphasize that because people quite often think we're really woo-woo But actually what we do is really fast acting compared to a lot of other, traditional so-called cures. Sorry, back to you,
Yeah.
Ebony.
I mean, I think the industry in itself has been flipped and it's all perception. What they call traditional, just like pharmaceuticals, is not. What's normal is not actually normal. What's traditional is us healing ourselves. So in our communities, in different communities, that would have looked like support. That would have looked like different modalities, infusing crystals. We're going to talk about words like chanting words and mantras, movement, right? So it really led me at a really young age to becoming my own healer and turning pain into power. I believe that's the first phase. And then eventually pain into peace, where I no longer even, my body is not having this gut reaction to what has happened to me, right? And to me, that's how I knew, okay, this is a thing. Like I'm healing. And I was shy. Everyone's like, how could you be shy? I wanted to play the background. I went to school for communications and I wanted to just be that voice on the radio that, I'm like behind the scenes. And then I was called to bigger things. And that really led me to teaching people, well, how did I do what I do? How do I still maintain my mindset, my level of awareness, and still navigate life? Because it's not like things don't still happen. I'm just better
And
at
that's what I love about what you've just said, turning pain into power. Because unless you've experienced some sort of pain, you can't know what good feels like, can you? You can't appreciate it. And also, you can't have a level of empathy with somebody if you haven't had a level of trauma and, not the most delightful experiences yourself, and you've had to work your way through them. And there's something else I just wanted to pick up on there that you talked about, which was about being immaculate with your words. So could you talk to me a bit more about that? Because I know it's something that you're really passionate about and is a big
Yeah.
part of your own modality of getting better or recovering.
Yeah. So for everybody thinks that, we look at certain modalities and we call them woo woo, right? I think that's a downplaying of the essence of who we really are. Because when you look at everything, right, light travels at a speed, sound travels at a speed, right? This is called what the frequency, because sound is a frequency, right? Light is a frequency, colors give off frequency, we give off frequencies, right? So when it comes to our words, I already had a knowing, but then when I launched this course called 7 Days of Clarity, it's like a 7-day deep, deep inner dive into your mind, body, spirit connection, your nervous system, all of it, like bringing it all out. Like let's take the garbage out finally. Let's not wait. And I began to notice words and sentences that everyone would say, right? So I'll give you one: benefit of the doubt. I think we
Oh,
have
I
to
hate
really
that. I
listen.
hate that. Because
Yes,
you
we have
know
to
already,
what we say.
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You know they're going to let you down again.
No,
So why do people do that?
because even in what you say, you're saying there was a doubt that arose within my center, my knowing, that it was like the little pinging that said, and you go, I'm going to give them the benefit. So what that means is you overrode your GPS and you said, I'm going to ignore where the map is telling me to go, and I'm going to go there anyways. And then we experience the pain, and we're I just knew it, right? So it's being impeccable with our words, even down to somebody says, hey, Vanessa, you want to go out this weekend for drinks? And you go, sure. Your inner being, what you're really saying is you don't want to go. The shore is an uneasy, I may be saying yes because I don't want to disappoint you. I may be saying yes because of whatever, right? So it's like really paying attention to our yes, to our no, to our shores, to our hard. That's a word people use so much. It's
Oh,
hard
it's
to hear.
difficult. It's so difficult. The clients say to me, you need to understand, it's so difficult for me. And I would say to them, and I think this is sometimes why they call me the gangster healer. I'm like, listen, you're not special. There's lots of people like you. And
Yeah,
the minute you stop saying it's hard is the minute you start to shift. So,
absolutely.
it's a challenge, it's one thing, but it's not hard or difficult. It's
Yeah.
challenging.
I call it growth opportunities. Honestly, with my background and what I've grown through, challenges, that word does not resonate with me. So we have to know what words, even as we learn, being impeccable with
Well,
our
I've just learned something there. So,
words.
not challenge, growth
No,
opportunity, which is a bit hard when everything's sort of like coming at you or
but it
falling apart, isn't it?
but it reminds you that there is growth taking place, right? So it's like we have to learn to trigger our mind to go in the direction where we want it to go. And that's what words do. Words transport it somewhere. No different than when you call someone and their words are so negative and they're complaining and you feel like your energy is brought down because they've transported you to a different space with their words. I'm going to share one thing about hard and then we can end it there. Hard for me, as I began to hear it, I always listen to what people are not saying. So I'm like, well, what does hard really mean? What does hard really mean? And I go, wow, maybe it can mean heart, right? Maybe we need to be more, number one, self-loving as we grow through things. Maybe we need to be more brave, more courageous, more empathetic, more forgiving. If we can tap into our heart as we grow through life, then we are given the tools to give ourselves grace, like all the words that you think would come with the heart. And to me, then we stop saying hard because we're like, well, most of the times when we're growing through things, we stop loving ourselves and we beat ourselves up and we are not empathetic towards ourselves and we're not forgiving of ourselves of those mistakes. So if we can implement that, then that turns hard into the growth opportunity, right?
No, I like that, and something you touched on very lightly there was self-love. I was with some young girls at the weekend, and in between the jolly conversation that we were having at the barbecue, one of them tripped over something and went, "Oh, I'm such a clumsy cow." And I said, "Don't speak about yourself like that. Just say, 'Oh, thank you for reminding me you were there.' You haven't killed yourself tripping over
Mhm.
it, and just laugh about it. But calling yourself that, imagine if I called you that. Somebody here, your friends, would soon put me in my place. So why would you speak to yourself like that?"
Right. Right. And it's the voices, we share the voices we hear within us or the things we've heard, right? So maybe she's saying that because she's thinking someone's thinking, I'm such a klutz because of this, right? And that's why it's even more important to get around people that amplify you, get around people, have conversations, even down to who's calling your phone, family, friends, whomever, right? Really letting them know what you desire, how the conversations you desire to have, because for every negative thing we say, we have to combat that with triple, 15 times as much positivity, right? So people wonder why it's so challenging to be positive. You got to, this is my thing because I know that in the healing realm, when you're new to shadow work, like all these words, the woo woo people talk about, right? It can be intimidating, especially when you're experiencing the dark night of the soul where you're like, I have no idea who I am, where I'm going, what I believe. Like, I just feel lost. And I was certain at a point, and now I'm not, right? If you don't know where to start, take an inventory of how you talk. Just learn to listen to how you talk about something, right? Are you saying this is so hard and it's so difficult? And, sometimes when I call people, they'll go, well, I've recently shared something. They go, well, I'm so sad for you. So don't be sad for me. I'm not sad for me. So you should not be sad for me. Lift me up, love on me, pray for me, but don't be sad for me. Like, I don't need that
Yeah,
energy. I need
that's
you
so
to be
true.
happy for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I had a friend turn up yesterday. She's a very good friend of mine. And we always greet each other with, "Oh, I love your top. You look great. Love your nails, love your hair," whatever it is. And
Yes.
whenever we go to each other's houses, we bring flowers because we both
Mm,
love flowers. So
I
it's
love
always
that.
starting from a
Mhm,
really nice point, that we're already uplifted from the moment
mhm,
I open the front door to her, or, the opposite, really. And I like what you say. People say safe travels. Really annoys me. It implies that there might be some danger. Up until that point, I was quite happy just going to Heathrow and getting on a
right,
plane flying to America.
right.
Now, God knows what could happen to me because I've got to have safe travels. There's
Yeah.
danger at the airport, so it is about being that picky, isn't it? I've got a client who always says they're manic, and as a result, she's always manic. Things seem to come really quickly to her all the time in
Yeah.
terms of stress. So, I mean, she's encouraging that in, isn't she, by not being impeccable with her words. If she just said, I'm quite busy at the moment,
Yeah.
I'm feeling, as opposed to I'm
Yeah.
feeling it's all a little bit manic at the
Yeah.
moment, but I'm sure it will calm down later.
Yeah.
She'd be fine. But we have this, I'm manic, I'm manic, I'm manic all the
Yeah.
time. It drives me nuts.
It's so deep, Vanessa. I think it's even deeper than that, and specifically the English language. The English language was crafted in such a way, like we can't even go back that far, right? But
Sorry,
it's
Ebony, I'm just having trouble hearing you. Could you speak up just a little tiny bit for me?
yes, of course. So I was saying the English language is crafted in such a way that we are, it takes a lot of self awareness to learn how unimpeccable we are with our words, right? First things, good morning, right? Um, what a coincidence. You and I both went to math, right? Coincidence, a coinciding angle look like this. So that means they're meant to meet, but we say these things because we've been taught them. We say these things because it's a part of it's intertwined into our language. That it takes a lot of knowing to shift your language into, to your point, be more impeccable, right? When people say my anxiety, my trauma, like to me, my takes it and it makes it a bag. And then you're carrying it and then it's yours. Instead of saying my experience with anxiety, my
Yeah.
experiences of the past, or the experiences I've had with trauma in my life, right? But always removing, like separating ourselves from what we've been through or what we experienced, because as a soul being, like we're not a body with a soul. We are the soul in the body. Kind of like what's the Iron Man, right? So he has the suit, we have the suit. So it's really just being more aware of who we really are and speaking from that powerful place and being impeccable with it, which takes work, but it's
Yeah,
easy.
because it's like your I am present, feeds your subconscious and
Mm,
ignores your higher self, because your
yeah.
higher self's gathering all the information for your aura, or as quantum scientists call it, your morphogeneric field.
Mm,
And if your I am presence is being bombarded by you in a self destructive way, saying,
yeah.
I am depressed, I am anxious, I am fearful,
Oh,
I'm nervous, I'm having a nervous breakdown. I
even
get
just
that.
hearing that, I feel like my whole heart is like, oh,
I mean, you can feel it, can't you? It's like, I'm having a nervous breakdown. It's like the
yeah,
energy of it.
yeah,
Whereas the minute, the first thing I do with my clients is say, right, listen, let's get strict on language.
yeah,
I Your name is Susan. You are not, I am depressed. You
yeah,
say, I am Susan, but you
yeah,
are feeling depressed. That sort of shifts it to over here, as opposed to it being a direct sort of energetic hit on you. So
yeah,
it immediately makes it lighter. And they
yeah.
say, oh, I feel better already. Well, fancy that.
But that's why I say healing is easy, because if we can, you know, if we understood how powerful words were, I don't think we really understand that we have magic wands, thoughts, words, actions. If we are not um, shifting the words, you bring the experience down, right? So if we could pour into our words and become wordsmiths more and really say, well, how am I talking about myself, others, my growth opportunities? How do I talk about when I'm met with something that is challenging, right? Within myself and in the world. How do I talk about that? I think we would be able to really shift. You shift your inner being. Like I said, listening to you say all of those things, my heart started to tighten. I felt it. I was like, ugh, it felt like a gut punch where I was like, oh my gosh, right? And we're doing this day in and day out. So
Yeah.
really paying more attention. I like what you said. You said be strict with words. Yeah. look at what you're saying and ask yourself, are my words giving me wings or are they adding rocks to this
Oh, I
experience,
love
making it
that,
heavier?
Ebony. Oh my words, traveling with wings, going
Mm,
back to light, sound, all having frequency,
yes,
or am I hurling rocks? And
yes.
it's one of the things I was talking to somebody about the other day, because I said to them, "You're never happy about anybody else's achievements." It's like, you're jealous of them, and it's you never quite I suspect that you're never sort of wholly engaged in saying, "I'm delighted for you. That's amazing. Good for you." There's sort of, "I'm really delighted for you." That
Mhm.
comparison, that jealousy is going to bring your essence down as well, isn't
Well,
it?
it does. I mean, there's so many emotions. I mean, that's the thing, right? If we could see the evolution of how things roll out, right? There's the thoughts. Thoughts themselves will bring you down, right? And then you verbalize them. So now we're speaking about this low vibration we're experiencing, right? And emotions, if we're not aware of the jealousy, the envy, the hate, then it's like seething through us, right? And it's important to really pay attention to. I think it has to start with the words. If we can pay attention to the words, we can shift the emotions. And I think most of us don't think ourselves to be that powerful. We think, well, I need this and I need that. And it's like, okay, well, that's why when it comes to even meditation, my number one recommendation is listen to guided meditation. Don't try to go in and just listen to sounds because then you'll be thinking. And the whole point of meditation is to restructure thinking. So if you can listen to powerful words and guided meditation, then you're really giving yourself a head start at structuring what you're saying to yourself. Because over time, when you listen to it enough, those affirmations will start to come in moments that are challenging. In moments when you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, it'll be like, no, you're beautiful. Just as you are. Your body is a vessel that carries your spirit, and you're beautiful. Your spirit is beautiful. So that means your body is beautiful, right? Because this is what you're listening to. So there are so many different ways that we can get out of our head and into our hearts and into the spaces that do make healing easy, right? Because if we're believing it's hard, that means you need more heart.
Oh,
um,
yeah, and the other
yeah.
thing that I just love that you said there is, we don't think we're powerful. And I would say to people, and I don't know if you believe, this is your thought or not, but we are all elements of God in the
Mm,
3D plane, living out this life. So it's not really terribly good manners, is it? And it's not really making the most of the opportunity if we layer ourselves with negativity, if we're not optimistic or indeed grateful about just waking up every day and having another day. And the other thing I want to talk to you about is that if we all shift, if we all stop raising our vibration, as we are all one, we are all one, we're all connected, then the
mhm.
vibration of the planet lifts, doesn't it? And that has got to be an amazing thing for all of us because there's so much fear, negativity around. If we can just shift by a couple of percentage points, all of us, then everything will shift with us. What do you say about that?
I mean, if you can do it for yourself, if you can do it for yourself and feel that shift, right? If you can shift your words, if you can shift the way you think, and you begin to feel better, right? We don't understand fully. First of all, we don't understand the full concept of a soul. And that's because religion taught us everything outside of what is true. That's number one. We don't understand who we really are at the essence of who we are. Most of us are walking around in the body, not in the spirit or the deeper knowing,
I'm
right?
going to stop you just there because this is fascinating, but we're just going to take a quick break from our sponsors, My Life Spring, and then we're going to come back and finish that conversation. So hold that thought, Ebony,
Holding it.
and please stay with us, everyone.
Ignite your vitality. Meet the LifeSpring Gold Card, a quantum leap in wellness. Revitalize your bioenergy, boost stamina, ease aches, and improve your mental focus. Shield yourself from electromagnetic frequencies emitted from cell phones, laptops, and other smart technologies. Restructure tap water, revitalize food, and harmonize everything around you. Elevate well-being with LifeSpring, made in the USA. Order today from VanessaElston.com.
We're back. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm here with Ebony Tutora, Master Meditation Guru and Trauma Specialist, and we're having a fascinating conversation. So, Ebony, we finished up, before we went to the break, just talking about raising our vibration just a few percentage points and what effect it could have on our complete surroundings. So, back to you to sort of finish your thoughts on the subject.
Yeah. So most of us don't realize the essence of the soul that we are in. We think we are just the body with the soul in it. We are the soul, like Iron Man, and our body is like the suit, right? And when we talk about, can shifting our frequency shift the planet? If we can understand it from a money level, right? Your inner world attracts what you receive monetarily, right? It attracts all of us, right? It attracts everything that we attract to ourselves. If we can understand that, then we should be able to understand that shifting how we think, shifting our frequency, Vanessa, even if it's 10%, even if it's 1%, right? 1% is you never meditated and now you're meditating once a week. And it's not to levitate. It's not to like do the things you think you're supposed to do, but it's like, what I tell people is it's the practice of listening to yourself. Just look at it like that. And every time you don't show up, you're affirming, I'm not ready to listen to myself yet. I'm not really ready to listen to what's there. So we have to understand that we are amplifying the things that are in the world, right? I will say that we do live in a paradigm where fear mongering, keep calm and carry on was a slogan used during war times, right? You know this, you're in England, right? So, there's a lot of things in our world that don't make sense, right? Tupac said it, you have money for wars, but can't feed the poor, right? A little bit, right? It's like, well, I desire to live my life not fighting systems because that's very draining. But what I can do is I can change myself. And we all know that. It's like the saying when they say, when you love yourself, you give others permission to do the same. You never really realize what you're inspiring in other people by them seeing you in your essence, by them seeing you say, hey, you know what? I struggle too, or I have growth opportunities too. And this is how I navigate it. You're giving other people permission to say, well, that's interesting. I never thought like that. Or I would love to embody that as well, right? So we have to understand that just like attraction and the law of attraction work that's out there and the manifestation, I put quotes like this because I think manifestation is a word that tricks us out of what is happening always.
I totally agree. It's so overused, and do a vision board, you get what you want. No.
Yeah.
Come on, Ebony, tell us how it really works.
Yeah, and not that those things aren't somewhat efficient, but it doesn't give us permission to say, I'm already doing this, and what am I doing to create the reality that I'm in, and what can I do to, recreate a new reality, which is what we've talked about, I think, primarily, and it's free, which is words. But I do believe when we shift, we do shift the planet, right? How can we expect peace when you and I can both agree, even as far as we are, I still have moments of not having peace. Just because I am who I am doesn't mean I don't experience not having peace, but I know how to reel it in and go, oh, I see where this is going, right? So how can we expect peace in what we see if we don't even have it within ourselves?
That's so true, because when I was a businesswoman, I interviewed a breath specialist the other day who was also an ex-businesswoman. We were talking about how much time we spent in fight or flight, because
Yes.
we worked in very high pressure industries, and
Yeah.
generally everything that was coming at us was an issue. And our
Mm-hmm.
jobs were, as sort of leaders of the businesses, to sort the problems out.
Mm-hmm.
But the impact that that actually has on our physicality through constantly being on edge, constantly expecting disaster, and say, guess what? More disaster and less, nice, smooth sailing. And we talked also about the days when we were on track, when we were tuned in, when we were on the right frequency and everything went really smoothly.
Yeah.
But we're not taught to make this association, are we? And I work completely differently now to how I ever have in my life. And I achieve so much more because I'm in a really calm space.
Mm. Yeah, and it's like a, there's so many different worlds happening at one time, and it's interesting because part of what I am doing now is getting into the corporate environment, because what I look at as simple, other people don't. It's like, oh my God, that's challenging for me, right? And it's like, for me, even when I was in corporate, I was already kind of doing this work. So for me, that looked like, what did my office feel like? So I know I was working in nonprofit. There was always like fight or flight as well, right? I think most positions these days have some form of that. I mean, even if you're working at McDonald's, right? There's just this angst that we all feel. And I think it actually is even deeper than that. And it comes from the lack of being able to control our time, but that's a different issue. But I would structure my office where my lights would be really low. I never used overhead lights that were like given to me. I would always bring in a lamp, candle, essential oil. So I was looking at ways that I could soothe the environment. So although it felt like a fire to everyone else, I always knew, okay, Ebony, just stay right here. Just stay right here, because nothing is ever as serious as it seems. And even if it is a fire, right? They always say, even if you're in a car accident, a lot of people struggle with getting that seatbelt off because the panic mode is it just sends our body into shock, and then the brain stops really working, right? But it's like, if you just relax, unbuckle the seatbelt, right? You're going to get out quicker. And I think that's just life, especially for people in high power positions. We have this thought of thinking. I've worked with people who work in the news industry, right? Breaking news, right? And it's like, just because you work in breaking news doesn't mean it has to break you. And it doesn't mean you have to show up in the energy of what you're being given, right? And you're going to take your power back by saying, I'm sovereign in who I be. So no matter what I do, I'm going to approach it with a level of calm. And maybe that looks like doing this. Before you respond, before you go on camera, before you do whatever you do, before you make that call, before you answer that call, before you send that email, right? And those little things really do shift us over time, for sure.
I really, really agree with that, because that's very much like, people imagine that because we're healers or because we're into all this stuff, that we just float through life really calmly and that nothing ever touches us. And
Yeah.
obviously, if you get your car clamped and you've got to spend £100 getting it unclamped and wait for the guy to turn up for 4 hours, you're not going to be in the dandiest mood, are you? Can you guess that happened to me recently? I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But, I then think, why have I been stopped here for 4 hours? I tend to go inside me and think, well, what's the message? What am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here? Or what am I not meant to be doing?
Yeah.
And it's stopping me from doing because it's not the right time.
Right.
And whatever rejects me, whatever difficulty comes up, also protects me. And then I chill out about it. It's like if I get delayed at airports, there's people kicking off, oh my God, 6-hour delay. Well, what's that going to achieve? I just think, 6-hour delay, I've got time to read a book, have a
Yeah.
cocktail. Not that I drink anymore, actually. I don't know why I said that. But, I've got time to do stuff. And I don't want to be in the air. I'm obviously not meant to be in the air at that time. And it's not safe. So, again, I'm being protected. Or there might be somebody I'm supposed to meet at the airport to have an amazing conversation. There's always a reason, isn't there?
Yeah. It made me think as you were speaking, it's just like dominoes, right? It's like, okay, the car gets, you telling that story. I was at a point in my life where I wanted to begin to implement everything happens for me, because I understood it, but I didn't feel it in my body, right? There were certain experiences that I knew they happened for me, but my body didn't believe it yet. And I really wanted to implement it. And it just was like, sometimes we go through these growth spaces where we're like, this is what I want to learn. This is who I desire to be. And to your point, I was at work and someone took the whole front end off of my car. It was parked. Yeah. And at the time, my boss walks in, and I'm always calm. So someone telling me to be calm is like, what happened? Like, don't tell me to be calm. Just tell me what happened. And she goes, I need you to be really calm. Someone just took the front end off of your car. And I go, okay. So I already knew that I was calling in this affirmation. And I go outside and I look and I just look at the guy and I go, okay, do you have insurance? He goes, yeah. I go, okay, call your insurance. Let's do what we got to do. But speaking about the dominoes, there were a couple other hurdles that came my way. Like, the company's like, well, we can't get you a car today. Now, if I had started that experience irate, excuse me, I don't think I would have been able to navigate it the way that I did. So when they said, hey, we can't get you a car today, I calmly just said, I drove to work in a car. I said, I'm going to go home in a car. So figure it out. I said, if I have to stay on the phone until you guys figure it out, then that's just what we'll do. I'm going home in a car. And I did. And the guy waited the whole time with me. He took me to get the rental car. And I was like standoffish with him. Like, I wasn't like laughing with him and stuff. He was like trying to talk to me and stuff. And I was just like, listen, I'm practicing everything that happens to me is for me, right? This is why I'm calm. However, I'm not trying to be your friend right now, and that was that, and then I got the car, my car got fixed, and then as I sat with it in the coming weeks, I ended up looking up his address because you get, their information through insurance and stuff. And I sent him a card. And I said, thank you. I said, and I started it with like, great crashing into you this way, I told him, thank you. I said, thank you, because I was not in my car.
Yeah.
Like the fact that my boss was there to say, hey, I know whose car that is. Right? Just the series of events that had happened were so divinely orchestrated for something for me that I was like, thank you. Thank you for staying. Thank you for taking me to get my car. Like, thank you for the fact that you had insurance. Like, God forbid someone crashes into you, they don't have insurance, right? All these different things, right? And he ends up calling me and he's like crying. And he's like this big executive guy in these hotels. And he's like, you changed my perception of humanity when I got that letter, and to me, it was just like the right thing to do. Cause I was like also apologizing that I was super standoffish with him. I do apologize about my attitude, but obviously given the circumstance, like you said, no one's going to be like, woo, like opportunity to grow. Yay, thank you, God, right? Let's be friends, So I had to work through that. I think now where I'm at, I could respond that way, but it was a big eye opener for me that it does happen for me. And that domino effect of things going wrong could have continued to happen if I had allowed my energy to go to that place of, why is this happening? How could you hit my car? My car was parked, like all the things.
Victim mode,
Right.
poor me, poor me,
Yeah,
poor me.
like I could have went
Yeah.
there and I didn't. So, we have to be mindful of that domino effect that happens. And just like, if there's one piece of advice I could give to everyone would be pause. Learn the pause before the reaction. And
Yeah,
someone's going to say,
interesting you said that, and interesting that you're working with corporates at the moment, because I've got a lot of corporate executives coming to me at the moment with burnout, and their language, the way they talk about themselves, the way they talk about their work, where they are, their attitude towards what's coming up, and what you've just said is, and what I get from that is you need to pull back from it, because you sending that letter, which was the end result, changed the way that guy thought about things, changed the way he will behave in the future. So maybe that's the purpose. And,
Yeah.
maybe it's not about you, maybe it's about someone else. I still haven't got to the bottom of who it's for with my £100 clamp on my car, but I'm sure it benefited somebody in the universe. Some ripple went out, and I, like you,
Yeah.
managed to not be,
Yeah.
explosive. Even when the
Yeah.
guy turned up and took my money, I thanked him, which, could have been through gritted teeth, but I actually managed to pull out some genuine thanks for him. 'Cause I did think, well, he could have left me here for 10 hours actually, and there where would I be? So
Yeah.
I want to just pivot quickly because we're coming to the end of our time together, and this has been such an interesting conversation. But I know you're on a mission to help 1 million women and girls worldwide to really be their best selves. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah. So the number in itself is the reality that we don't know how many people we really touch, right? If I work with young girls, not only am I touching them, but they're taking that back to their mothers, their aunts, their grandmothers, and they're sharing with them what they've learned, right? Or even just the shift in their vibration. So part of that mission is it comes from my own space, right? You said we can't, it's you teach to learn. You teach because you've experienced it. So I've experienced a lack of love. I've experienced, many different things that made me feel like I couldn't. I just have to keep clearing my throat. I've experienced many things. So part of that mission is to be a beacon of light. I know what I'm created for, and I know that I'm created to shift mindsets, shift perspectives, and to give people permission to be all of who they are. One of my favorite quotes is question everything you've been told, dismiss what insults your soul. And most of us don't question what we've been told.
Oh, I love that. Dismiss what insults your soul. What a
Mhm.
powerful sentence.
Yeah.
Everyone write that down now and stick it on the wall or put it by your
Yeah.
desk or in your car, because that is a great place to start with everything, isn't it? Does
Yeah.
that insult my soul? Does that person insult my soul? Well, turn away then, or
Yeah.
walk forward without them.
Yeah, and everything you've ever learned, I think we come into this earthly plane, and there are a lot of things I know for me, even as a kid, I didn't agree with, and I would be like, I don't really, that doesn't make sense to me. Especially with like just religion and navigating my way. And I would always ask so many questions. And if they didn't make sense to me, a lot of times they're being shoved down our throat, like, no, this is right. And, this is what you should believe. Even that word should is like a weight to like, I don't have to believe anything, right? I don't have to should anything. And it gives us permission to just be, to think how we want to think, to dress how we want to dress, to live how we want to live. Like how many people are really in corporate that would actually love to do something else,
Oh my
right?
God, so many of them. When I talk to them and you say, what really is your passion?
Yeah.
Forget earning money, forget paying the
Yep.
mortgage, forget that your kids are at private school
Yeah.
and the bills have got to be paid. What's
Yep.
your passion? I
Yes.
love surfing. I
Yes.
love I love painting. The
Exactly.
amount of creativity that's trapped in the confines of a corporate existence that's just all about money is
Yeah.
so sad. And
It
people are
is.
terrified to follow their passion and don't think that it will really deliver any money or the same amount of money
Mhm.
for them, as opposed to looking at abundance as enjoyment and happiness, and
Yeah.
then through that the energy of money flows anyway. So
Yeah.
it's like, but we're taught not to believe any of this, aren't we?
Yeah. We're taught what we should do, right? Checking off the boxes. You go to school, you get the marriage, you get the kids, you get the things, you have all the luxury things, and then you've made it. Right. And this is the beginning of a midlife crisis or later in life crisis, wherever you are, right? Because you've been taught to check off boxes. You have not been taught, what do I want to do? What do I love? What lights me up? What makes me happy? And to follow that and to know that, like you said, the money will come, right? You can attract anything that you want. Doesn't matter what you choose to do, right? You can sell knitted hats, right? and make that into a big thing. And we've been taught out of it, right? And I think this is what I encourage people to do. Look at the proof. Is it true? Is it true that you checking off all those boxes will make you happy? Is it true that going to college is the only way to be successful? I mean, many people are not successful because they owe all this money and they're paying it back and they're living in this cycle of stress. So we have to really be brave and asking better questions of the world, of ourselves, and redefining ourselves. And sometimes, it feels hard, which is you just have to go in and navigate it with heart, get amazing coaches and people to assist you in that new level of who you be, to be able to see you and guide you to where you are headed, And I think essentially this is when they talk about wake up the world, being woke, right? This thing I wear here. A lot of people say, why do you wear that? It's like my jewelry reminder of like, I have an eye. I have a being and a knowing that is deeper than what I can see with my eyes open. And I want to always remain cognizant of, is that true? Does it have to be true? Like, is this true that this is the only way? Is it true that this situation is stressful, or am I making it stressful?
And there's the trick, isn't it? And am I making it stressful? I love that.
Yeah.
Ebony, I could talk to you all day about this. It's such a fascinating subject, but we're coming to the end of our time together.
Yeah.
I want to ask you two things, really. The first one is 3 top tips for our viewers that could change the way their life is right now. 3 top tips that
Yeah, I think I've shared them
start
already,
today.
so I'll give them back to you. So that first one is listen to guided meditations. Listen to guided meditations. I have quite a bit on YouTube as well as on iTunes. Listen to guided meditations. And if the voice doesn't resonate with you, change the voice. Find a voice that does resonate with you. A lot of my people actually are UK. They have UK accents. So like those are the people I tend to gravitate to other than my own voice. Listen to guided meditations. The second tip is ask better questions. That first question is, what is my story? Right? We have frequently asked questions, and then there's wisdom asking questions. Like instead of why me, what is this teaching me about me? Ask better questions. One of the best questions to ever ask yourself is, what is my story? Right? Because your story becomes the stories you then tell yourself to create the perspective you have. So we have to unravel the stories. The last thing I would say is breathe. The breath is the spirit manifest. The breath is spirit. And when we remember spirit is flowing in and through us, and that's how we know we're alive, we'll give ourselves more permission, to breathe. And to remember that it's cleansing, it's healing, it's inviting, it's peace bringing. It has so much wisdom with it. And no matter what you're growing through, breathe. Just stop and breathe and keep breathing. Even if that breathing leads to tears, knowing that you are alive. And if you are alive, you still have a purpose.
I love that. It is a breath of life, isn't it? So bring in a breath of calm, bring in a breath of empathy, whatever it is, but take a deep breath, because it's life itself, as you say, invigorating you. And every time you breathe in and out, it's a reminder that you are part of something much bigger.
Yes.
Ebony, where can people get hold of you? Where can people get a bit more Ebony Tutora?
Yes, so I am most active on Instagram. My page is Queens Recognize Queens. They can visit my website at queensrecognizequeens.com. In all the social media avenues, mostly Instagram, but if they want to connect with me personally, they can shoot me a DM over on Instagram or email me at hello@queensrecognizequeens.com.
Oh, Ebony, thank you so much for today. Thank you for this amazing conversation. And if you're a corporate looking for somebody to calm your people down and get them back on track, Ebony's your lady. If you're somebody that's having challenges in their life or growth opportunities, as Ebony calls them, then get in touch with Ebony, because she really is an amazing person and does really, truly amazing work. So thank you so much for joining me on WTF. Again, thank you so much to Ebony. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you here next week. Thanks for joining us.